Should we do something to start? Sing or something? How do we...
Okay, do you want me to start? I can start. Okay. So just hello and... Bonjour tout le monde. Merci de vous asseoir. Tous nos invités sont déjà arrivés et notre invité d'honneur également. Merci infiniment.
And as a broadcast journalist, I'm all about the timing. All about the timing.
Merci.
So bonjour, mon nom est Karen Pugliese, and I'm the executive editor for the National Observer. We are a scrappy startup. I'm just saying, if you want to support us, please do. That will be my cheeky comment for today.
Kwekwe, Catherine Cano, Nininchikas. Moi, ça fait 20 ans que je suis en journalisme. J'ai dirigé des salles d'information Radio-Canada ici et ailleurs et dirigé CEPAC. Aujourd'hui, je suis professeure en journalisme et en développement international et expert conseil en médias. That was my cheeky plug.
So welcome to the Press Freedom Lunch. We are so exceptionally thrilled to be here to celebrate the courage of journalists who fight for freedom of the press.
Oui, un grand bonheur de se trouver à ce moment important pour la liberté de presse. D'ailleurs, le thème de l'année pour aujourd'hui, c'est Journalism under Digital Siege. That could not be more true. Mais avant d'aller plus loin, nous aimerions reconnaître le territoire traditionnel sur lequel nous sommes aujourd'hui.
And as an Anishinaabe woman of the Pikwakanagan First Nation, I welcome you all onto the unceded territory of my nation.
Le territoire algonquin contient 48 millions d'acres de terre, de nature majestueuse et de vie très précieuse.
And from the time of my great-great-grandfather, Mike Bernard, who is the chief of Pikwakanagan, until today, we've never given up on our responsibility to protect these lands. So once again, welcome. And I want to say for the first time this year, we are being broadcast via live stream. Hello, live stream audience. And this is for you. If you have questions that you would like to ask Maria Ressa, there is a Q&A button on that live stream. And if any other technical issues, I can't see it, but I'm told there's a request help button down at the bottom.
Et puisque nous avons déjà notre invité d'honneur qui est là à nous attendre et qu'on a un programme très chargé, on reviendra sur les présentations d'usage pour un tel événement et on aimerait laisser la parole à la présidente du Forum for Freedom of Press Canada, Heather Bacon.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, and wow, is it great to see a few hundred people in a room again. Is that not cause for celebration aside from this fabulous day? We're going to keep it brief because we have our keynote speaker waiting to join us from Geneva. So I will just say welcome to the 21st Annual Press Freedom Awards Luncheon. World Press Freedom Canada is delighted to celebrate World Press Freedom Day in person again for the first time since 2019. Our world has become a lot more dangerous for journalists since we last gathered for this event. As we've seen in Russia and one-time bastions of free speech such as Hong Kong, authoritarian governments have sought to limit what their citizens can read, see, hear, and what reporters can report. One person who knows this reality better than most is our keynote speaker. Maria Ressa is a co-winner of the 2021 Nobel Peace Prize. She is a co-founder, CEO, and executive editor of Rappler.com, which is an online news organization in the Philippines. Ms. Ressa is a fierce defender of press freedom, and her investigative work has made her the target of her country's government. She's also a vocal critic of social media's capacity to deceive and entrench political power. And she's joining us to share her data-driven knowledge about disinformation, fake news, and attempts to silence the free press. Free and independent media are essential to democracy. Each year, World Press Freedom Canada awards a Press Freedom Prize to a nominee who demonstrates exceptional courage and determination in the face of myriad obstacles to get their work published. WPFC also presents a Spencer Moore Award for Lifetime Achievement and a prize for the International Cartoon Competition. We look forward to announcing this year's winners during the luncheon after the keynote. While the Awards Luncheon has been on hiatus during the pandemic, committee members have not been idle. We have found novel ways to mark UNESCO's World Press Freedom Day. They include video campaigns to mark the day and showcase award winners, a panel discussion on press freedom and human rights, and an online debate on access to information. We have also mounted seminars on threats to journalists, especially women and BIPOC media workers. And because of our advocacy work, yesterday the Mayor of Ottawa proclaimed May 3rd as World Press Freedom Day for the capital of Canada. As is our, thank you. You can thank His Excellency for that. As is our mission, we support like-minded groups and continue to advocate publicly when press freedoms have been violated. I would like to personally thank all the committee members for rolling up their sleeves in support of press freedom, but we could not do this work alone. We owe special gratitude to our supporting partner, the Canadian Commission for UNESCO, and our sustaining sponsor, the Canadian Bankers Association. For a full list of sponsors, please see the back of the program on your table. On behalf of World Press Freedom Canada, I would like to thank everyone who is joining us from government, the diplomatic community, business, the nonprofit sector, and members of the public who value and support the media, organizations that work day in and day out to bring you the news and context for informed decision-making in a healthy democracy. Please feel free to take pictures during the event. If you're tweeting, please use the hashtags, #World Press Freedom Day, Press Freedom, Journée Liberté de la Presse, et la Presse. We'd greatly appreciate it. And now, it's my honor to introduce the Canadian Minister of Heritage, the Honorable Pablo Rodriguez, who is coincidentally hosting a cultural summit in the building. So he has 400 people waiting for him. Minister, if you could just say a few words. I know you have to toodaloo after, but we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. Well, just a few words. It's really tough for a politician, but I'll try to do that. Salut tout le monde, vraiment content d'être ici. Merci de me donner l'opportunité de vous parler. And it's true. I'm right across the aisle. We have a national summit on arts and culture. There's 400 people from everywhere in Canada, from music, television, museums, and they said, "Well, if you're there, why don't you come say a few words?" And I said, "Well, who's there?" "Oh, no worry, just a room full of journalists." So that's cool. But I'm really happy to be here, guys, especially on these days. And I said it this morning quand je parlais ce matin. Au Sommet national, j'ai parlé justement de l'importance d'une presse libre et on reconnaît aujourd'hui l'importance de cette presse-là, le rôle qu'elle joue, le fait que c'est un des piliers de notre démocratie. Une presse libre et indépendante, c'est fondamental et le rôle que vous jouez collectivement, c'est irremplaçable. And we need you guys. And sometimes we love you, but not all the time. But you ask the tough questions, right? And sometimes, am I always happy to get the questions? No, to be honest. But that's your job. And you do a great job in doing that. We're there to answer those tough questions. So that's why it's so important here in Canada and across the world. Et c'est votre job de poser des questions difficiles. Vous le faites. Et vous le faites vraiment très, 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 très bien. So I also want to recognize the incredible work that you guys, as journalists, have done in Canada over the past 2 years, from keeping Kenyans up to date on the pandemic to providing on-the-ground coverage of the war in Ukraine, even keeping Kenyans informed what's going on at their local city hall, which is fundamental for our communities, for different regions. So all of this is essential. And you're at the front line of fighting disinformation. We need you. The society, not the government, the society needs you for that. Une démocratie forte, ça repose sur un accès à des sources fiables, variées, basées sur des faits. C'est ce que vous faites. Et ça permet aux Canadiens de se faire des opinions éclairées, de faire en sorte que nous, les gouvernements, que tout le monde au pays puisse participer de manière constructive au débat public. Et je peux vous assurer que comme gouvernement, on est déterminé à continuer à soutenir les médias libres et indépendants ici et dans le monde entier. And we're also taking action, and you probably read this or maybe wrote about it, here in Canada to strengthen Canada news media ecosystem. And that's why I recently introduced Bill C-18. Now, I'm going to give you a secret just between us. Don't tell anybody else, but after the last election, I asked the Prime Minister, I said, I want to go back to heritage. He says, yeah. I said, yeah. I said, yeah. Why? Because it's the best job, and I want to make things happen, and we need the bill. We need to act. So that's why we tabled Bill C-18, which will ensure that news organizations are fairly compensated by the tech platforms that use their content. It's only fair that it happens. And that's why this bill, in my opinion, is so important. So I see Jack Mead here, and it's a good moment to ask him what he thinks about C-18. No, I'm kidding. He's supporting us, and we're doing a great job on this one. And thank you so much, Jack Mead, for the support and the work on this one, and C-11 also. So this bill will strengthen Canada's news ecosystem and the while keeping the government as far away possible from the process, right? And you guys like that, right? We like it too. We have to be far away. That's the way the bill has been drafted. So I think it's really important to be very clear on this one. The work that you do has value. It has value and has to be compensated. And the tech giants should compensate for the use of your content on their platforms. Period. That is fundamental. Alors, on ne doit jamais prendre notre démocratie pour acquis. On a vu ce qui s'est passé à plusieurs endroits dans le monde. Il faut tout faire pour la préserver. Et aujourd'hui, plus que jamais, les Canadiens ont besoin de nouvelles fiables et crédibles. Je dirais qu'ils ont besoin de vous, nous, collectivement, comme société. On a besoin de vous. Alors, c'est pour ça ce que vous faites est si important. Thank you so much for doing what you guys are doing. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, thank you very much, Minister. Pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker today, my personal hero. The Nobel Committee awarded the Peace Prize to Maria Ressa in 2021 for being a fearless defender of independent journalism and freedom of expression in the Philippines. She's been honored around the world for her courageous work in fighting disinformation, fake news, and attempts to silence the free press. Simply put, Maria Ressa is a press freedom Wonder Woman whose primary tool is the lasso of truth. And no one gets out of that without telling the truth. But as I mentioned earlier, she's been targeted by her own government for publishing that truth. She was convicted of cyber libel last June and has been arrested on 10 charges in total. Her fate may hinge on the outcome of next week's presidential elections. I'd like to remind everyone that the Philippines is still a democracy. Democracy is fragile. For now, Maria is out on bail pending her appeal and joins us today from Geneva. Maria, are you there?
I'm here. Hello, everybody. Oh my gosh.
My friend.
Well, I really wish I was there with you all because I feel like, in the last few weeks, I think I've spoken to different journalists in Canada like twice or three times. But, it would have been incredible to have been with you on World Press Freedom Day. I wish I could splinter into two. But having said that, so many friends in the audience, I cannot see your faces, but I guess let me just go into this and then let's talk and let's chat. I guess if you can only pull one thing out of everything that I'll say, it's this. It's the battle for our attention. That the fact that what gets our attention is really not just about journalism, but what gets our attention is what gives our lives meaning. Where we spend our time determines what we accomplish, what we become good at. Those of you in the room my age, we focus on journalism, on the profession. But where we spend our time, I'll say that again, that's really important to keep in mind because the battle for our minds is now waged and won on technology platforms. And it's not won through the craft of journalism or telling stories, maybe telling lies. It is won by manipulating our emotions, not our hearts, but our hate. So thank you for your attention. I'm going to start there. I'll speak about three things. First, this fight for attention in a new economy that's chipping away our free will. Free will is at stake. Second, what that's doing to journalism. And finally, how do we fight back? I became a journalist because I believe information is power, and many of you in the room know this. It is how we get justice. The death of democracy began when journalists lost our gatekeeping powers to the technology platforms that not only abdicated responsibility for protecting us, but they also destroyed democracy by destroying the facts for immense profit. Profit news organizations never got this. We never got there. That's not jealousy. I think that's just a fact. Moderate your greed. Like the age of industrialization, when labor was commoditized, new laws were needed to protect the people. Well, today, there's a new economic model that brought new harms, a model Shoshana Zuboff called surveillance capitalism, when our atomized personal experiences are collected by machine learning, organized by artificial intelligence, which extracts our private lives for the outsized corporate gain. Highly profitable micro-targeting. That's a game changer. These operations are engineered to structurally undermine human will. You've heard me call this a behavior modification system, in which were Pavlov's dogs experimented on in real time with disastrous consequences. It's like letting a drug agency test its drugs out in the public in real time. And yeah, maybe some people die. There's no testing to the side. All of this is happening to you, to all of us around the world. You've dealt with disinformation and information operations. These engagement-based metrics of these American tech companies mean that the incentive structure of the algorithms, which is, let's define that, right? What is an algorithm? Opinion in code, implemented at a scale that we could never have imagined. That's insidiously shaping our future by encouraging the worst of us, the worst of human behavior. In the Nobel lecture, I said that studies have shown that lies laced with anger and hate spread faster and further than facts. Now, these next three sentences took me years to come to, but I got there by examining data and living through these dark experiences. I've repeated them over and over, and I'm sure you've heard me say them, but I will repeat it one more time. Without facts, you can't have truth. Without truth, you can't have trust. Without these, we have no shared reality, no rule of law, no democracy. Journalists, human rights defenders, anyone under attack, were defenseless against this information warfare, because that's what it is. And at this time, the move for profit and authoritarians using this technology to consolidate power, well, they perfectly align. The same methodology that was used against me is used everywhere around the world. These bottom-up exponential attacks on social media. You've heard me say at least 90 hate messages per hour, pounding a lie 1 million times. Then that lie becomes a fact. Then that lie comes top down from the president, in my case. In my upcoming book's prologue, I showed where we first saw it impact the world. And that was in 2014 against Crimea and Ukraine. Methodology of 2 steps: pound and suppress the facts to silence, then replace with the meta-narrative that was used 8 years later, this year, by Russia to invade Ukraine. Right? So those 8 years, a meta-narrative, even if it doesn't go viral, comes up again and again, and like a virus of lies that infects real people. I'll remind you again, there's no difference between the online and the real world. They're one and the same because we are in both. It's our minds that's affected in both. Online violence is real world violence, If you can make people believe lies are facts, then you control them. In the Nobel lecture, I said that an atom bomb has exploded in our information ecosystem. In fact, I think I said that first in Canada. And because we need to prevent humanity from doing its worst, we need a new global coalition to put guardrails around tech. The platforms want you to debate content moderation. That's all the way down here. Because if you're stuck down here, they make more money. So let's move further upstream here to algorithmic amplification. That's the operating system. And go even further upstream to the root cause here, surveillance capitalism. That's our data. That is where all our problems connect. Safety, privacy, antitrust, and yes, content moderation down here. These are not separate issues. We can't solve the global existential problems if we don't win the battle for facts. So that brings us to journalism, right? And the existential problems we face: truth, health, climate. The technology that we're using, the world's largest delivery platform for news is Facebook. Well, that technology is choosing what journalism survives, right? It's commoditized journalism, reduced us to page views. And what gets the most clicks? The most sensational. That doesn't mean that's good journalism, right? And what beats sensational journalism? Lies laced with anger and hate. So this isn't the best journalism that is getting the widest distribution. It is often the worst. And it is what brings out the worst in us. What keeps you on your phone scrolling, bringing in profit at great cost to humanity. We're letting hate create the future us. That's emergent human behavior. So what can we do? A lot. Don't sit back and just watch. If you're a journalist, you probably come under attack as well. But, we need to, and this is what we've done in the Philippines now. It's a person-to-person battle for integrity. This year, we'll have more than 30 elections around the world. And we can't have integrity of elections if we don't have integrity of facts. In 6 days, the Philippines will vote in an existential moment for our democracy. The frontrunner for president is Ferdinand Marcos Jr., the namesake of the dictator ousted by a people power revolt 36 years ago. Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is back, partly because history was changed in plain view with these networks of disinformation that we exposed in Rappler. It began in 2014. We exposed it in 2016, 2019. But that doesn't matter. It's convinced Filipinos, some of them, that Marcos, the dictator, was actually the greatest leader our nation has ever had. So in the absence of any law to protect users, the EU is passing some now, but it's too late for us in the Philippines. Think about this. There's also an abdication of democratic governments to create something like a Better Business Bureau to protect our minds. So we have to act with what we have. So we just decided to fight back by finding a way to create a whole of society approach to fighting viral lies and propaganda. We created a 4-layer pyramid of nearly 150 organizations, 16 news groups working together. That includes rural newspapers. That's layer 1, the foundation. Layer 2, we called the mesh. These are civil society groups, NGOs, human rights organizations, business groups, the Catholic Church. This is the group that walks into algorithmic amplification because we journalists, we don't like sharing our fact checks with emotions. So the mesh layer layer 3 are 7 disinformation research groups that analyze every week how Filipinos are being manipulated and by whom. And finally, layer 4, the law. Legal groups filing strategic and tactical litigation to protect those on the front lines in our battle for facts. I don't know if this will work. It's an experiment. The Philippines is a young population. Our median age is 25 years old now. So we tried to get our people together by calling it an Avengers Assemble moment. And so far it seems to work, but we have 6 days left, so we won't really know. But here's what did happen. Within a few weeks of our launch, the Solicitor General filed a petition at the Supreme Court against his own client, the Commission on Elections, and Rappler. He called fact-checking, prior restraint. We've had more legal complaints filed against us this year, more than 50 charges than ever. So I guess we're doing something right. We're holding the line. So look, let me end before I take your questions, just by saying and reminding you that we're all connected. Journalists are under attack. We're discredited because we push back against lies. We hold power to account. But in this existential battle for facts, we can't do it alone. So we have to ask our communities the same question that we've had to deal with, especially women journalists who have been specifically targeted by gendered disinformation. It's a question I've asked repeatedly over the years. What are you willing to sacrifice for the truth? I've had no choice. I know my answer. These elections may determine whether I go to jail for the rest of my life. But worse than that threat is the idea that I didn't give it my all when it mattered, right? When we have so much at stake. So let me end with just this. You know, in 2016, the first domino that fell was the Philippines electing Donald Trump, followed about a month later by Brexit, going all the way down to Catalonia elections, to Donald Trump, to Jair Bolsonaro. Well, if we fall further now, I'm convinced we won't be alone. This is an emblematic elections. If we lose our democracy, the cascade will follow. So please, there's no better time, no time when our mission as journalists is as needed by the societies we serve. So please, the time is now. Thank you for listening, but let's get our communities out in the battle for facts. Thanks.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Maria. I know you can't see everyone, but I hope you can hear the applause. And thank you for your courage. Do you have time to take a few questions? I know we started a few minutes late. Okay, so Q&A.
Sure.
Yeah, great. So you get to engage Canadians in your fight for democracy. We've had a few questions virtually and a few questions in person. So I'm going to start with one of the online questions from our virtual viewers. By the way, we're live streaming this event, and we will be sending the link out afterwards, so you can come back and revisit it if you want to digest what Maria said, and then have a second round, because it's incredibly important that we understand her work and how she's put the dots together. Question for you, Maria. How far can we go in regulating platforms without inordinate limitations on free speech?
It's a question that I get all the time, but I think that's also where we get lost. This isn't a free speech issue. And when you hear the platforms reiterate that, that's a little bit of like deflection. What is happening to us? And I have the data in terms of me. This is personal knowledge, right? Free speech is being used to stifle free speech, right? Imagine information operations pounding you to silence so that you're effectively taken out of the information ecosystem. Then your absence is filled in with a meta-narrative. These are information operations. That is what's happened to me. And there's, if you'd like to see more, the UNESCO and the International Center for Journalists did a big data case study of about 500,000 attacks against me. 60% were meant to tear down my credibility. There's a reason why people all around the world have lost faith in traditional media. Yes, we're not blameless, mind you, but we're under attack. Right? Insidiously under attack. So 60% were meant to tear down my credibility. 40% were dehumanizing attacks, personal attacks that were meant to tear down my spirit. When you do that though, and I can see the data, that's like waving a red flag in front of a bull. So for me, it's like, okay, bring it. And I've weathered horrendous stuff. So no way do I fall for this free speech argument. what you have to regulate. What is the newest factor? And think about it like this. It's algorithms. So think about an algorithm, opinion in code, right? As taking one editor and multiplying that editor's one decision 1,000,000 times. That's what the platforms do. If that editor makes a mistake and it's coded, then you replicate that 1,000,000 times. Which information ecosystem can actually proactively create hate? Why would you want to do that? In our world, when traditional journalists, when we were the gatekeepers, we needed to separate the emotions out, and we tried to. Look, when I was in Indonesia, caught in Muslim Christian violence, I know that if you put the wrong word in, you can trigger mob rule. Well, that's exactly what's happened online. And here's the rub, right? The way it's been designed, social media platforms, because anger and hate and conspiracy theories get the most engagement, meaning it brings the most money and it keeps you on site longer. That's an algorithm, right? When that happens, what happens to you? This isn't what's good for you, right? Because all of these emotions that they trigger lead to moral outrage. It's kind of like that's part of the reason you stay on. And what does moral outrage, where does that bring you? Mob rule, right? So this online violence has seeped into the real world. And where are we now? We're a world that's disintegrating, that's facing a potential global war again, a place where we haven't been since World War II. So no, what a long answer to that is not a free speech issue. Sorry. Let me be calm. No, this is an algorithmic issue. It's a technology issue. It's the way that tech has hidden how it is manipulating our biology for profit.
Maria, you've kind of touched on, I think, the elephant in the room in the last week and a half is what's happening with Twitter. One of our viewers is asking for your take on Elon Musk taking over Twitter, and do you think it's a plus or minus for press freedom?
Hard to say, but we can certainly look at both his opinions and his track record, right? Again, overemphasis on free speech is what has gotten us here. This is not a free speech issue. This is a distribution issue. I think back again to 2014, which is, I think, when the world saw traditional news groups had both the creation of journalism and the distribution of it. But around 2014, we lost that power to technology platforms. And what did we see in 2014? The first really successful information operations that split the globe in terms of what exactly happened in Crimea, right? And again, that meta-narrative seeding has come back and hit us in 8 years later when President Putin, when Russia invaded Ukraine using the same meta-narratives. Okay, what a long-winded answer to say, all right, let's give him the benefit of the doubt, but if he sticks to, let hate flourish, let lies or conspiracy theories flourish. We already know where this brought us. It's been, I'll tell you, for me, it's been 6 years of hell and we've stayed the course. But let's talk about another country that is going to have elections. Brazil. Jair Bolsonaro was a little known fringe figure until he was dragged into the mainstream by YouTube, right? So again, this is a distribution problem. It is like, it's choosing what will be delivered to you. So last thing I'll say is, it's like having a conscience, right? So here we are thinking, making a tough choice. You have an angel on your shoulder trying to tell you to do the right thing, and a devil trying to tell you to do the easy thing where you gain the most. Well, what these algorithms of the social media platforms have done is to flick the angel off our shoulder and give the devil a megaphone. So the question for Elon Musk is, what kind of communications platform will he want to create? And that will help determine where the world goes.
Are we up? Yeah. I think we should hold out hope that he did meet his partner and the mother of his children on Twitter. So maybe it's the good angel spurring him on. We need to live in hope on that. We do have a live question from the room. Sean, do you want to hand the mic over? And please, please, please be brief because Maria has to leave and we want to get maybe one or two more questions.
I think the mic is working.
Hello, Maria. This is Patricia Lisson. I'm the chairperson of International Coalition for Human Rights in the Philippines. First of all, Canada. And first of all, I want to thank you for being a part of our subcommittee, the Foreign Affairs Subcommittee on Human Rights here in Canada. And you did a wonderful job. So thank you. My question is in relation to human rights, so I'm going to change the format just a little. How has the election campaign affected our human rights activists on the ground?
Not well. What's happened in the 6 years of Duterte is the drug war, the tactics used in the drug war, which was first weaponization of social media and then the weaponization of the law. Well, this was turned against activists. In the Philippines, we call it red tagging, essentially calling someone a terrorist, right? And then that brings, when the military does it, when a spokesman for the government does it, then you have real problems. And what we've seen is that activists, human rights activists on the ground have been tagged. We've had hundreds killed under the Duterte administration, more than the journalists and the lawyers killed during this time period, right? So there have been 23 journalists killed, more lawyers killed than journalists, 66, and about 330 to 350 human rights activists. And again, compare that to the number of people killed in the drug war, which is a debatable number, but it goes anywhere from 8,000 to 27,000 people killed in less than 3 years. The answer to you is that it's harder. The Marcos campaign has made it difficult to get close if you want to ask questions. And if you're a human rights activist asking questions, it makes it tougher. And then beyond that is the entire concept of rule of law. Look, even before this time period, elections, especially local elections, are violent instances in the Philippines. I don't know if you remember the worst election-related violence in history up until 2009, and this is CPJ saying it, was the Maguindanao massacre. 58 journalists killed in one shot, buried with a backhoe, a government-owned backhoe, in broad daylight, right? So if we get 200 people killed in elections in the Philippines, that's peaceful. We'll see what happens on May 9th.
Yeah. Thank you. Just for people waiting for lunch here, and I know you have to go, and you've been very generous by giving us an extra 10 minutes of your time. We have one more table question. It's a two-pronger. So I'm going to ask the easy part first because you'll be able to end on a high note, I hope. Thank you for staying positive, is what one of our guests has said, in the face of the threats to your safety and freedom. And how do you do that? But first you mentioned focusing on safety, privacy, and antitrust above content moderation. Can you just explain that again, just a few words so we can connect those dots, and then just let us know how you, I know your lasso of truth is unbreakable. We've all seen that. But how you remain positive, and if there's anything we can do to help your cause going forward.
Sure. Let me just, because that's an important part. In fact, I testified for Canada on the legislation you're looking at, right? Like, content moderation is where everyone winds up staying. But even more important than that is privacy, data privacy. Every time you post something on any social media accounts, every time you listen to anything on any, whether it's Spotify or whichever account, that's data. Right? So you put in data, you're posting something, and then machine learning comes in and creates a model of you. That model of you over time knows you better than you know yourself, right? That is you. Who owns that model? Especially when artificial intelligence comes in and brings it into the mother lode of surveillance capitalism. That is the data that's used for micro-targeting, right? It's like you went to a psychiatrist and told the psychiatrist your deepest, darkest secret, and the psychiatrist says, I own it. I'm going to sell it. Is that your data? It is. Is that your deepest sense of who you are? The data does show it, right? So that's the first step. Is there a sense of data privacy? That leads to that question I asked at the very beginning. Do we have free will when we are being insidiously manipulated, when we are being micro-targeted? And then finally, on antitrust, the more, and I think there's EU legislation now that is going to deal with this, these huge platforms, because there were so few rules in place, were able to gather up this data, gather up different industries, right? So now think about health data. Think education. That's already fallen by this track. The definition I used, algorithm is an opinion in code. If you want to read more about that, that's from Kathy O'Neill, Weapons of Math Destruction. She talked about algorithms in education. Now it's health. And when you have biological data, your health data, in an information ecosystem, that's privacy. And a doctor couldn't give that stuff out, right? Without you signing on. But here you do, right? So who owns this? Safety is about the manipulation, right? We know in Myanmar, for example, that both the United Nations and Facebook sent in people to investigate the genocide that happened there. And both of those groups decided that Facebook enabled that. And yet no one has been held accountable, and there hasn't been any substantive changes to the design of the platforms. It is the design that's a problem, and it is manipulating us at scale. Oh, last, how do I stay positive? Because we can see the data, that's one. We can definitely demand better. And, I haven't given up. I can't give up. We will win this. I'll win it in court. And this is it. I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up on a vision of democracy. I grew up with this, and I hope to see this through. So please hold the line.
One of the things, thank you.
Thank you.
You're getting a standing ovation.
Incredible. It's incredible how he's so positive with everything.
Yeah, I'll put that down a bit. It's inspiring, and it's a call for action too, I felt, for us to not give up and then continue. What an extraordinary guest. On aimerait revenir sur le programme, donc, et reconnaître... OK. Oh, vous nous entendez mieux, peut-être? Bon, parfait. Alors, écoutez, c'est tellement inspirant qu'on a hâte de vous donner la suite du programme. Alors, d'abord et avant tout, on aimerait reconnaître la présence et souhaiter la bienvenue à Monsieur l'ambassadeur de la Norvège au Canada, Jon Elvedal Frederiksen, qui a été le hôte d'une réception hier. Merci infiniment. And I would like to congratulate your country for being ranking number 1 on the Freedom Press Index of the Reporters sans frontières en 2021. Bravo. Et le Canada est 14 sur la liste de 180. Il nous fait aussi un grand plaisir d'accueillir l'ensemble du corps diplomatique, le ministre du Patrimoine, bien sûr, qui était ici plus tôt, Pablo Rodriguez, the NDP leader, Jagmeet Singh, thank you for being here, sénateurs, députés qui ont pris le temps d'être avec nous aujourd'hui. Merci infiniment.
And we'd also like to, I'm a little closer to you.
It's okay.
We'd also like to extend a particular welcome to Ukraine's ambassador who arrived just recently, Ambassador Yulia Kovalev. There you are. And I think we all have a lot of empathy for what your country is going through, and we're grateful for all the journalists that are bringing us the truth about what's transpiring there. Thank you. And we also want to thank our sponsors. So we'll go through maybe a bit of a list, and then you can do thunderous applause at the end of the list. We want to thank the Canadian Association, or the Canadian Bankers Association, and our event sponsor, the Power Corporation of Canada.
Nous avons aussi des partenaires dans la catégorie or, Compass Rose, Edelman Canada, les Friends, Twitter.
The Globe and Mail and Sussex Strategy Group, and all the other sponsors are actually here on the back. So here's the moment where you can give some thunderous applause.
And among our guests, on a deux personnes invitées pour lesquelles on veut prendre un peu de temps aujourd'hui. On parlait de femmes inspirantes, Maria Ressa. Eh bien, j'aimerais inviter au podium une autre femme très inspirante au parcours d'un modèle exceptionnel, pour qui l'éducation est la pierre angulaire de toute société forte, la très chaleureuse secrétaire générale de la Commission canadienne pour l'UNESCO, ma grande amie Rhoda Muse.
Merci Catherine. Les discours et les interventions de Maria Ressa étaient tellement inspirants, je ne sais pas ce que je vais pouvoir dire après elle. Mr. Rodriguez, Ambassador Fredrickson, Mr. Jack Mead, distinguished guests, good morning. I'm honored to be here and speak on behalf of the Canadian Commission for UNESCO. The United Nations General Assembly declared May 3rd to be the World Press Freedom Day. This day is observed to raise awareness of the importance of freedom of the press and remind governments of their duty to respect and uphold the right to freedom of expression, enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This declaration, made 74 years ago, needs enforcing as much as it ever did. According to UNESCO, 29 journalists have been killed since January 2022. From Ukraine to Mexico to Yemen, press freedom and safety of journalists is at low point. Just last month, UNESCO announced new emergency measures to help protect journalists in Ukraine and allow them to continue their work and to support the free flow of accurate information about the war. UNESCO also awarded the Guillermo Cano Prize to the Belarusian Association of Journalists. These represent a strong stance to protect journalists who criticize, oppose, and expose authoritarian politicians and regimes. And even in Canada, we are not immune. Journalists regularly experience bullying, threats to their safety, and verbal abuse online. It is important for our commission to partner with World Press Freedom Canada on this day and raise awareness of issues around press freedom. Our future depends on it. Thank you. Merci.
And once more, that was just a short break in applause. You can start applauding again. I'd like to welcome Anthony Ulster, President and CEO of the Canadian Bankers Association.
Thanks very much. On behalf of the Canadian Bankers Association and our members, we're honored to serve as presenting sponsor for the World Press Freedom Lunch. And it's a pleasure to gather in person everyone here in Ottawa and with those joining online. I'm relatively new to my role, but I share the CBA's enduring respect and appreciation for the free press in Canada and around the world. Your dedication and courageous work ensures citizens are informed and those in power are accountable. We're proud to continue our longstanding support of this day, especially in this turbulent and challenging time. Shining a light into dark corners has never been more important. Thank you.
We're switching spots. She wants to make sure that people can hear me because the mic, you know, when you're my height, just kind of doesn't always land in the right spot. So now we are moving forward with the awards portion of the program. And just before, we want to congratulate the Belarusian Association of Journalists who have been named as a laureate for the 2022 UNESCO Gimero World Freedom Prize.
Family. À titre d'organisation dont la mission est le respect de la liberté de la presse, nous voulons exprimer aujourd'hui notre sérieuse préoccupation face à la suppression des médias indépendants en Russie et notre profonde admiration pour les journalistes ukrainiens et étrangers qui continuent de couvrir la dure réalité et les impacts de la guerre au risque de leur propre vie.
And I think it's fair to say in all that we're seeing here today and in the journalism that unfolds every day that we do not have free press because there's a democracy. We do not have human rights without a free press. We only have a democracy and human rights because we have a free press. So the Press Freedom Award recognizes excellence in public affairs reporting that has overcome official secrecy, threats, and intimidation to other systematic suppression of facts. Past winners include the Globe and Mail's Nathan Vanderklip, Sarah Cox of the Narwhal, Kenneth Jackson from APTN, and Patrick Legas from La Presse.
Ainsi que la journaliste Michelle Lang du Calgary Herald, qui s'est vue attribuer le prix à titre posthume après avoir été tuée lorsqu'elle couvrait le déploiement des forces canadiennes en Afghanistan. Sadly, I should say, too many journalists get killed and imprisoned each year. Selon Reporters sans frontières, c'est 46 journalistes qui ont été tués en 2021 et depuis janvier 2022, ce sont 24 journalistes qui ont été tués et on trouve en prison 460 de nos collègues. Nous aimerions inviter à nouveau à ce point-ci, justement, parce que c'est le temps de célébrer maintenant qu'on a fait part des duretés, de la dure réalité de la couverture journalistique. Nous aimerions inviter Heather Bacon et Anthony Osler de retour au podium pour remettre des prix des grands gagnants.
I just want to clarify, my name is Bakken like the oil. It's not very popular right now. I love Catherine's accent, but it reminds me of being picked on. They used to say making bacon when I was in high school. But but in English, it's, well, the Norwegian ambassador actually would have the proper pronunciation. I probably butchered it, didn't I? Okay, as Karen and Catherine mentioned, the Press Freedom Prize is awarded to a nominee who demonstrates her public interested work was frustrated by myriad challenges, which include, but are not limited to, a cloak of secrecy, legal maneuvers, political intimidation, or tactics that put their safety or career at risk.
This year, we excitingly have co-winners.
In keeping with the Nobel Peace Prize, because 2 journalists won that prize last year.
Yeah, that's great. And the winners are journalist Fatima Saeed and Tai Huyen, editor-in-chief and publisher of The Local. Come on up.
Come on up.
Oh, do you want to do a photo?
This way, yeah. Congratulations. Great work, guys.
Sorry, I need a minute to unfold my paper. Thank you so much for this very unexpected and hugely humbling honor. You know, when I was first told about this award, my immediate reaction was, why? It wasn't all self-doubt, although maybe a little bit. It was the fact that when I, like most of you in this room, think about press freedoms, we think about journalists who have physically been restrained or barred or arrested even for doing their jobs. But here's what I've learned, especially during the pandemic. The absence of journalism is also an issue of press freedom, and we saw the dire consequences of that over the last 2 years. Peel Region, which is the subject of the story that is being honored tonight very kindly, is first and foremost my home. So this story was a personal and professional reaction to just how neglected it was by our public institutions during the pandemic. If you flew here from Toronto, you crossed Peel Region. The food you're eating today, some of it probably came from Peel Region. We always tout some form of democracy dies in the darkness kind of phrasing in our work, but it's not just democracy, it's human beings. When the pandemic started, 6 taxi cab drivers died, whose names we don't even know to this day because their families are too afraid to talk about it. It's people like them in Peel Region, you know, the workers who kept us going, the doctors in 3 hospitals who service 1.4 million people, the residents who have far too often been vilified for the color of their skin as opposed to the work they do to keep their community afloat every single day to fill in the gaps of the government. Those are the people we need to be highlighting more and more. So thank you to the World Press Freedom Committee for highlighting this story as an example of why we need to put a spotlight on all communities. I'm grateful to be part of the journalism community that does this work and really tries to amplify the voices that aren't heard. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Fatima. What an absolute honor it is for a small publication like The Local to be the recipient of this year's prestigious prize, truly. Community journalism is absolutely vital to a healthy democracy, and it is shrinking. It's really disappearing. So it really needs all of our help and our support. And for me, this prize really recognizes the importance of local journalism. So thank you.
There's also a dollar amount attached to the prize, so they're sharing the $2,000 prize between them. So we encourage everybody else to apply for the award next year. It's a nice little perk. Okay, at the height, no, we're on the wrong one. Okay. This year it was really tough to choose a winner. It is every year. And I think, as Fatima said, all news is local, and that's what Ty is dedicating his career to in providing this local news. We also have a woman in this room who was brave, bold, and bodacious in her reporting, and she had the privilege of being supported by her employer. Anthony?
Yeah, so the citation of merit for the Press Freedom Prize goes to Kathleen Martins at APTN. Come on, Kathleen.
Kathleen, just so you know, she broke several important stories on sexual assault and harassment by prominent Indigenous leaders. She pursued the allegations fiercely despite condemnation from the leaders' supporters. And again, as we said, APTN supported her throughout. It's our pleasure, Kathleen. Let's get the photo. Sorry. Take a bite of your food, everyone. Sorry, it's these procedural matters we have to. Yeah, you're going.
Okay. Yeah. A little more this way. Yeah. Right.
Enjoy that sound.
Yeah. Oh yeah, right.
Sorry. I used to cover Griffin drinks.
All right. Great.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm really grateful to be here and thankful to World Press Freedom Canada for recognizing my work with a certificate of merit. I accept it as a tribute to the victims who are not, sorry, I memorized this, but I'm not so good at remembering. I accept it as a tribute to the victims who risk their income, their housing, and even their personal safety to accuse a leader in their communities. I go to the wall to tell their stories with the full editorial and legal support of APTN News. This is one of my former news directors right here, Karen Pugliese, and she is absolutely fearless. Thank you. Despite threats and retribution, which I have also exposed, I have yet to meet a victim who has backed down and declined to share their truth. They want change, and their courage inspires me every day, and I hope it inspires you too. Thank you.
So I just have to find my spot here again to pick up. But while I do, maybe I'll tell you a few things about, I just met Ty today, and congratulations, Ty. I'll tell you a few things about maybe Kathleen and Fatima that you don't know, is that on the side, while they're not doing excellent journalism, they're often volunteering in the journalism community to support other journalists. Kathleen has been involved on the board of the CAJ, and Fatima is the vice president there. So, I mean, they're really, congratulations, guys. Okay. Yes, okay. We're at that point where I actually get to welcome the World Freedom Vice President, Sean McCarthy, to award the Spencer Moore Award for Lifetime Achievement in Press Freedom.
Hello, everybody, and thank you all for being here. This is a great room, and watching Maria Ressa, wow, it's hard not to be inspired by her. Another fabulous woman journalist that I've always been inspired by and admired. It's my pleasure to award in absentia the Spencer Moore Award, which is named after an original founder of this committee that is putting on this lunch for lifetime achievement in press freedom, and that is Stephanie Nolan. Stephanie, I had the pleasure of working with her at the Globe. I was at the Globe and Mail for many years, and Stephanie she has covered war, conflict, AIDS, Zika, political oppression, and mass murder on every continent except maybe Antarctica. She's just fearless. I heard Karen described as Stephanie embodies that characteristic, but I think even as importantly, there's always compassion in her reporting. She focuses on the people, and she is totally committed to them. Unfortunately, Stephanie could not be with us today. She is home with COVID in Halifax, reminding us that we might wish to be over with COVID, but it is still not over with us. She was going to record a video, but her voice gave out, and she couldn't do that. She is recovering. She's okay, but feeling under the weather and under the blankets, as she put it. So I just want to read what she sent, because it's very Stephanie. I'm sorry not to be with you to say this in person. I'm sorry not to be able to send you even a recorded message thanks to COVID and the total loss of my voice. But somehow that feels fitting for an award in 2022. The last 2.5 years have brought challenges to access to information and to trying to grasp and tell a story that are unlike anything I've seen before. I very much appreciate this recognition. I have reported from a lot of challenging and dangerous places, and I have in my life as a journalist tried very hard to amplify voices that authorities and systems are trying to keep us from hearing. In almost every case, I did that work with the help of a producer, a translator, or a fixer, usually a journalist who was from that place, someone who faced immeasurably more risk in doing the work than I had. I had my Canadian passport in my pocket, a plane ticket home waiting, and they all stayed in that story and all the peril that comes from telling it. I couldn't do what I do without them. People such as Felix Marquez in Mexico, Jack Kahura in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Firas Alamin in Lebanon, Patricia Carrillas in El Salvador, and Lily Sadigji in Iran, and many, many more. So I accept this award gratefully, and I will continue to try and bring attention to the enormous risks that are borne by these journalists, whom I honor to call colleagues, and in hope that it may help keep them a little safer. And that is from Stephanie. So congratulations, Stephanie. I could stand there like this, and you can take my picture, Fred, if you like to. I just want to follow up with, because we have in the room a couple of the people that Stephanie mentioned. I had a note from Les Perot, another former Globe and Mail colleague who is now at Policy Options, that he had at his table two Afghani fixers who had worked for years for Canadian press in Afghanistan, journalists themselves, Abdul Razak Khan and Surab Shahid. So if they're in the audience, I would like them to stand up, please. I don't know if they made it. And I neglected to mention, Farida, are you in the audience? Journalist in residence, Farida, whose last name I'm forgetting. I'm sorry. One last little commercial. Take these home, read them. There's an incredible, Gord McIntosh put it together. There is an incredible amount of content in it. It's not just a program, it's a magazine. Thank you, Gord, for all your hard work.
Oh, merci, Sean. Talking about, the work of freelancers and fixers and everybody helping abroad. This year, Canada, with the efforts of the many media, including the Globe and Mail, the Star, French organizations as well, and the work Freedom Press Canada and Journalists for Human Rights, have been able to gather enough money to evacuate and bring home journalists from Afghanistan and their fixers and all that. About 1,000, I'm told, to this day. There's still more, but this is the work of everybody putting together their efforts and making sure we keep them safe as well. I don't know. If we're going to go to the next thing, which is un moment aussi très important en termes de journalisme. Je ne sais pas si on va montrer une caricature. On nous a dit qu'on nous avait fait une caricature de nous deux. Mais je ne sais pas si... J'ai presque peur de la voir, mais bon. Ah ben oui. Okay, that's a peu, là.
Wait, which one's me?
Well, wait a minute, I can fix that. Just a second. This is pretty high. Oh, good. See, I'm much better.
You're still taller than me.
Not that much. And you're taller than my eyes. How about that? All right, sérieusement, la caricature est une forme éditoriale journalistique puissante qui révèle souvent de façon crue et vraie des réalités sur les enjeux reliés aux droits et libertés. Les caricaturistes font preuve de grand courage lorsqu'ils mettent au jour des vérités qui peuvent choquer.
The statements that are made by political cartoonists can be as risky to them as any statement made by a journalist. And so that's why we want to recognize the artists.
J'aimerais inviter notre grand caricaturiste qui nous a inspirés et continue de nous inspirer semaine après semaine, Monsieur Guy Badeau.
Moi, j'ai préparé des notes cette fois-ci. Si le silence est d'or et que la parole est d'argent, qu'en est-il des statues de bronze? If silence is golden and speech is silver, where does that leave bronze statues? Le thème du concours de dessin de cette année m'est particulièrement cher. Mon arrière-grand-père a en effet réalisé la statue de John A. Macdonald sur la colline parlementaire. Je n'avais jamais imaginé qu'un monument risquait de devenir aussi éphémère qu'un dessin de presse. This year's cartoon contest theme is very dear to my heart. My great-grandfather is in fact the artist who sculpted the John A. Macdonald statue on Parliament Hill. I never thought that monuments were in danger of becoming as ephemeral as editorial cartoons, except, I hope, in the following case. Il me fait plaisir d'annoncer que Marie-Léna Nardi est pour la deuxième fois lauréate de notre concours de dessin de presse. I'm pleased to announce that Marie-Léna Nardi is for the second time winner of our editorial cartoon contest. Auguri. Grazie mille per lei.
Merci Guy, merci infiniment. On est à la fin déjà.
That went by fast.
Very fast.
So that does conclude the program for today. If you're here in this room, please stay and feel free. Nobody's eaten their dessert yet, so you can still stay and eat your dessert and have some coffee, mingle a little bit, get to know each other.
Un très grand merci. On veut rappeler nos commanditaires aujourd'hui, la Commission canadienne pour l'UNESCO, the Canadian Bankers Association et Power Corporation, et tous ceux qui ont contribué à cet événement. Vous pouvez voir la liste aussi dans le programme, le fantastique programme dont parlait Sean tout à l'heure.
And again, as Sean said, the program has a lot of information in it, and you can do with it what I'm planning to do with it. I'm going to get the autograph of all the winners and then put it up on my wall and frame it, and maybe get a selfie with them too. So make sure that you congratulate them on your way out. Also, I'm told that you need to check out the website, worldpressfreedom.ca, and you'll find bios there also of all the award winners. And finally, just one note, private media organizations are struggling. News and press freedom doesn't come without a price attached to it. So please support press freedom by subscribing. Thank you.
Merci. Bonne journée. Merci, bonne journée.
It's the same language.
Language, what's the same?